What you see here is another Wild Turkey Federation painting, and it's a sunset piece. That means there's going to be a lot of silhouettes, light, and then the dark barn. You'll see that as soon as I get started on that. But right now, I'm going to start with the stream, the creek right here in the foreground, and I think it'd be good if I just sort of put a stone or rock to help the sequence, the feel of the creek as it's coming around the turn here. And it's far from being finished itself. But anyway, you got to start someplace in this thing. So that's where I'm going to start right now. Okay. Okay, I think a rock, like Bob Ross says, a happy rock. Well, anyway, this is my happy rock. We're going to put one on this bend in the creek here, sort of, because what's a creek without rocks and brush and all that sort of thing showing up from the time to time. And again, it's going to be silhouetted a little bit. And we'll stick her out there, and maybe another little one right here. Need to put that up there, and the one on this side, okay? And and then you can always lay the rocks in on the other side. But you do that, and then you lay a highlight around them. Even though it's silhouetted, but still, we need to put a little bit of a highlight across down this old stone here. Does that show up? A little bit, I hope. So we're going to get a little bit of a highlight on that baby there, and a little one on this one, and some on this one here, okay? And I think that's for the first little bit. The first attempt at it, we got a stone started in the creek, okay? And around the bottom of them, you it's really dark where it goes up against the water, okay? So that's a little touchy. We'll get that. And then I'll get a thinner brush, and we'll try to get a little shadow, reflection, not a shadow, but a reflection here in this, okay? We'll get another one over here, just a little bit. Won't show much of a shadow, a reflection. And a little one, this little baby here, okay? And to go up against that, maybe a little bit of white, because there's so many times a reflection where the water curls up around the obstacle. And get this right for you. See how that looks. There, it's already starting to take on a little bit of a reflection and a highlight and all that goes. So that's step number one, folks. You might be wondering what colors I'm using today that make the rock and these weeds and all that I'm going to soon do. Cobalt blue, mix it with this burnt umber here, and boy, that makes it dark. You can go about it. I use it for black most all the time. And of course here, and you want to tone it up for the weeds, it's yellow ochre. And that seems to, right now what I'm going to be doing, we're going to start putting some weeds around these fence posts, and that always adds character, adds detail. It does a lot. So I'm going to move around up here, get a little paint on my brush, and we'll start in this fence post. That's a good spot to start. Okay. And we just come around there. Can you see that? I hope you can. I hope my hand's not in the way. And we'll come around here and come right down here to the edge of the creek. And we'll throw a little bit out that way. I'm good at making weeds because you can get by with a lot of problems that potentially might not on something else. And but weeds they're worth everything on these old farm paintings, and this will all be reflected in the creek later on. Everything I put in here, it will be a reflection on it. So, just junk. Sometimes I call it junk. Weeds and tall grasses and all. It seems to dress it up and give it detail and interest, If you don't have weeds, they're worth their weight in gold when it comes to making it more interesting. And so that's what we got to do here. That's the beginning. starting it, and then you just repeat that all on and on all around. Some of the weeds will come right down to the edge of the water, and right here under the water, you can water's edge right underneath these weeds. Rather, you can. There's always a dark little area before you hit right into the water part here, and you can bring that down sometimes and get a little detail like that. Throw a little in that rock, yeah. And and then there's leaves. You can put leaves down here too, see? They always add interest. And over in this area. Now you got to do this with all these fence posts, the ones here in the foreground, right here where the creek rounds the bend. You got to start figuring out, take time out, don't be in too big a rush, but take time to see where you want all this, all the detail, okay? And certainly this would be a good spot here because it's going to be catching the light to come right down through here from the sun, okay? And from this sort of this area here, it'll be in shadow. And we'll have to change the color, darken the colors an awful lot for that area, okay? And in this area right here, you might put a little bit of blue in there, you know? It's in shadow, it's catching the sunlight, you know, and that seems wrong, but I don't think it is. It'll just catch some of that sunlight, and it'll make a big difference. Maybe I can show you here a little bit. Throw one in here. That's still, got to get a little more brighter than that. Okay, can you see that? Here we go. That adds against the yellow ochre and this light blue. It's catching a little bit of the sky color, and it seems it does more good than you'd ever imagine. So mixing it right in there. So okay, let's we're going to shut the camera off for a minute and move on to something else. Okay, have you ever seen those old vines that grow on the old fence post? And I know, I love it myself. And here's a little bit on this fence post. We can't leave this fence post just out there by itself. It's got to have something, you know, an old vine weaving down through. And of course, this is step one on it. You would always, sometimes it's poison ivy. You don't want to get into the poison ivy too much. Because I had as a kid, I got into it so much one day my eyes swelled shut on me. Me and my hound dog, you know, we was digging on something and we were someplace where we shouldn't have been. And so we'll put a little bit more there. I don't want to sound like Bob Ross a little bit all the time. Nothing wrong with that though, but it's my own vines. And of course on vines, poison ivy vines, you have leaves that the sun up here will reflect through. They're transparent, so we'll stick one up there, okay? Right there. And you start putting them out there and put a little more red with it. And that'll dress it up too a little bit more. Down through here. Yeah, I like that. Out this way. And now, I don't know if that works or not, if you can see it very well on what we're doing here, but anyway, and some of it right down here, because the sun is coming, has free right away, right down through there. It's going to light this ground later on. This will all be lit up and highlighted. So, anyway, that's give me a little idea, and a little bit more yellow on that one point there, possibly, and you could pow on, if you want to, pow on put a little dryer. I use cobalt dryer, and they dry so quickly. Thank God for that. And you don't want to get too much, though. We're going to call it quits as far as the leaves go right there, but you work on it, and then work on your vine down here and start dressing up. But, of course, waiting down at the bottom of that post is more weeds, you know. And see, this is basically where I start with that. Okay, get a little bit more tall grasses. So that is a little bit where we go with that. And we can wind those poison ivy vines right down around there into the ground, okay? And of course, I come back and reinforce all of this and make a change. Okay. That's the end of the fence post right there.